Hi, I'm Sally Boyd. Welcome to Activate Your Life Through Astrology. My guest today is Jess Campmans. Jess Campmans is a shamanic energy intuitive, animist, and soul wisdom mystic. She is the mother of 4 young children and the human facet of her foundation, Morgan Horse Herd, known as Guided by Equus. She and her husband, Chris, own and operate a dairy farm in Calgary. Jess's life with horses led her full circle from her desire to train horses back to embodying the soul gifts that her horses ignited within her. She tunes into intuitive, innate, ancestral, akashic, and collective cosmic energies. Having journeyed through her own dark night of the soul more than once, Jess's ability to bridge worlds and tune into the energies that are present offer insights, perspective, and clarity for both humans and their animals to transform wounds and burdens into gifts and blessings. Working with and through horses, Jess can amplify and illuminate universal wisdom, healing, and inspiration to bring healing to both conscious and unconscious pain points within the psyche and the emotions and the body. Welcome, Jess.
Hi, Sally. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. So I know you very well. We've been working on projects together with equine astrology, and we do something called the intuitive equine intuitive astrology piece, and it's been so much fun. But can you tell the guest how you came into this work specifically?
I guess I came into it in 2013, 2014, after going through a number of places with my horses where they didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And what I realize now is that they were mirroring that I was rejecting all of those parts of myself that they then led me to being able to not only find but bring home in a way that helped me integrate and heal them. Those pieces being my intuitive and empathic gifts that I feel like I've had all my life, but that I had pushed away, and in turn was rejecting and keeping at a distance. And so my horses horses in general are mirrors for who we are. And my herd kept showing me time and again who I was being, and actually invited me into becoming who I am now.
Can you give me an example?
For sure.
When you knew that, like just an example, like an epiphany, an aha.
I would say the ahas came later, because the initial ahas were the ones that my horses just, when I would go out into the field, they would leave. And anybody who's familiar with horses, your horse telling you that they don't want you to be with them, that broke my heart. And at that point in my life, I just had my 4th child, and inside I looked like my life was, or I mean, on the outside it looked like my life was fine, but on the inside I was falling apart because my horses didn't want me anymore. And having my 4th kid, and 4 kids under 4 years, was kind of a lot. And I had a herd of about 17 horses at that point, and I just had to really start to tune in. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but there was a lot of anger and grief and sadness and bitterness that all just kept coming up and out. And I learned about this thing that we call healing with horses, where the horses actually hold the space for us to, they're like a gateway to discovering all those parts of ourselves that we haven't integrated, right? The shadow and the light together. And so, because I didn't really trust any humans at that point to guide me, it was my horses that kept guiding me back to those parts of myself that that I had essentially been rejecting for my entire life, and allowing my ego to really kind of take control and lead me, and that no longer was working anymore. So for the last 7 years, I've been, I became certified in equine facilitated learning, and just been on a journey with my horses that they kept opening up new realms of ways to connect to my own intuitive and empathic abilities, and do this work for myself, but also then to share it with everybody outside of myself, including animals. So animal communication comes into that realm, communication with spaces and places and objects and nature. And yeah, it's been a fascinating journey.
So you said that you've had this gift all of your life. Was there one point where you feel that it was turned on for you? Was there something that specifically happened, or do you feel like you were just, I mean, I feel like everybody's born with intuition, but was there specific?
I would say, yeah, two things are coming to mind. One, the first one was 2 weeks before my 8th birthday. I was riding my horse and he jumped sideways and I came off, and as he went to jump over top of me, he kicked me in the head, knocking me unconscious. And journeying back, when I began to do this work, like through shamanic journeying and just dropping into the space with the horses, I would get these visions, and I realized that and then my mom actually confirmed it for me about 6 months ago, that I did go unconscious for quite a while. And so from age 8 kind of forward till now, it was moving from a human being who was very unconscious and to go through the spectrum of becoming, awakening into consciousness. The second one, that as you were talking, what was another really, I will always remember it, was I had discovered somebody who did Reiki, and I didn't know what Reiki was, but I was having a lot of things going on with my horses that I didn't know what to do with them. And I thought, well, okay, I'll invite this person out. She lives close to me. And my daughter at that point was waking up every night in absolute panic and terror, like just like something was basically getting her in her bedroom. And so this Reiki lady came out and began to work with my horses. And then I was telling her about my daughter, and she said, well, we can clear the space in your room, in your house. So I invited her out, and as she was down in this room that my daughter lived in, she began to talk about, can you feel that we're surrounded by angels and these guides are here? And I remember just being, and I'm getting chills right now as I talk about it, but being so overwhelmed, and I just tears started pouring down my face. And the words that came out of my mouth was, I knew this was real. And so it was just that coming back to opening up to the sense of spirituality that I feel like I had blocked off when I went unconscious. I was conscious in my mind and I was conscious in my body, but I was not conscious of my spirituality and my connection to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In another interview, one of my mentors was saying that, you know, she had been awakened and then she went to sleep, and then she had been awakened and she went to sleep. And I realized, yeah, that's a perfect example of what we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect example of what we do. We awaken and then we go to sleep, and we awaken and we go to sleep. And someone else had mentioned in another interview, I've gotten so many pearls of wisdom through this whole process, about a great writer that had written a book. I can't recall her name, but somebody out here will know, and they can type it in, called Kundalini. She's a Kundalini astrologer, and she wrote a book, I think it's called Astro Kundalini Rising, saying that our Kundalini is always rising.
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's just, it starts low and, you know, and then eventually, you know, it's like, you know, so our Kundalini is constantly awakening, I guess, you know, whether we actually have the full awakening or not, or when it happens, or how it happens, or what it looks like, I don't know. But, you know, we're constantly having a spiritual awakening. There's more happening now. And as we are more open to it and as we ask for it, you know, but it sounds like, you know, because I know that I've gone through honeymoon periods with God, you know, and then we go to sleep, you know, so that sounds like, you know, so the way Jess and I met each other and we started a working collaborative relationship is at the International Equine Summit, which Shelley Rosenberg puts together, she's an awesome philanthropist and horsewoman that has a nonprofit called My Horse, My Healers. And what's the name of her? She has a healing modality with horses. What is it called? You can get certified in it.
I believe it's on a quest.
Yes. And yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you want more information about that, you can email me, but it's very interesting. But I experienced, that's where Jess and I met and we clicked immediately. And, but I experienced one of Jess's healings, and it was just in this great big arena. And there were about 30 people in that particular session, I would guess. And 5 horses just kind of roaming around, just holding space for the group. And Jess was leading this healing, and it was profound. And I really needed a healing, I'll tell you. That was an intense weekend for me particularly. But she was, they say, like one of the best for last there. And it was profound. And then we started working together after that. And so what we do now is I do equine astrology, and she puts in an intuitive piece. And so we're going to do a little demonstration on how we work together. But I want to ask you just a few more questions, if it's okay. Okay. Do you, I know you work with you use, because you've done it for me, even with my horses, you use the horses kind of as a conduit. That's the way I would put it. If I were trying to explain it, mm-hmm. Or the horses use you as a conduit. I'm not sure which way it's working, really, to be honest with you. I don't know. Maybe you can put better language to it. But and I'm wondering, do you do other animals? Do you use other animals mm-hmm. with this, or do other animals use you?
Yes, I would say, to really kind of simplify it, is that I just become a channel for whatever wisdom as energy wants to work through me. And so that began as my own horses. And it was easier to actually offer it to someone that I was sitting across from than myself, which I still, because being able to receive the wisdom that we have, right? Sometimes we have blocks around that. So the more I did it for clients, and in every client session, as you probably well know, there's a healing for us in that too, right? It's always reciprocal if we're willing to be there and receive it. And so my horses work through me, but then I recognized that other animals would do the same. And so there's the kind of animal communication piece, but I believe it's more than that, because I do something called Horse Wisdom Wednesday on Facebook and have a picture of each one of my herd, and people will just comment on the horse that resonates with them. And each message that would come through my horse was for them very personally and uniquely. And yet with each horse and all of the messages for different people, there was a theme to the general wisdom, you could call it, of that horse carried, right? The medicine, like our spirit animals, each have a piece of medicine or wisdom for us if you look up a spirit animal. And so what's coming right now is a story about a skunk who was eating between a skunk and an owl. A couple falls ago, we lost 25 chickens and 7 ducks on our farm. And so we set up a trap because we thought, okay, like this can't go on. We're losing our flock. And caught the skunk. And I went out and I had a horse blanket, and I was talking to him, and I crept up and I just dropped it on top of the cage. And then I sat there with him, and it was snowing, and it was about minus 10 degrees Celsius, and it was cold. But I just sat there and tuned into the skunk, and what I received back, kind of tuning in and asking, what is going on here? And what I got back in the form of almost a vision and a feeling. The feeling was what was so overwhelming, was this sense of what we as humans call unconditional love, but it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. And what I understood was that the only way that he could show me that animals are holding for us, and that everything that they do and they come here for is an offering for us to embody that. And so he showed me that the only way that he could deliver this message was by getting my attention through all these attacks, so that then I would come into this close proximity with him, right? Because people are kind of, rightly so, don't want to be in close proximity with a skunk. And there's a whole meaning behind the message of what the skunk medicine brought as well, for me to step into for myself. And so I guess tuning into animals, or even like I was sharing with you about my daughter and her in the bedroom, and if I kind of bring that full circle, we live in my husband's family's house that he grew up in, and he lost 2 of his brothers, both of whom had lived in that bedroom before. So there was a lot of dense, heavy energy. And through this journey of my horses leading me through another gateway and through another gateway, through my own intuitive senses, is to be able to tune into places and spaces and houses and just everything, because there is energy as information within everything. And so,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
It's really, yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah. And I don't believe that I'm the only one that has this. I believe everybody on the planet has it. It's just we grow up, and kind of like my own experience of getting kicked in the head, we have these traumatic things that happen to us that block our ability to be able to tune in, or to trust that tuning in to our intuition or our instinct. And really, those blocks are for us personally to transform, right? There are wounds, but they become our greatest gifts when we can take them and shift the perspective on them. I mean, we all have this. Some of us in this lifetime have greater wounds than others maybe, but even to say that, they're all part of who we are and who we come here to be and work through to have greater fulfillment in our life.
Right.
Yeah. And I can't say it's easy. I mean, as you well know, I think when we met each other, I was going through I don't know who I am, right? Because as you move through these wounds, you get to that place where you don't know who you are anymore, because you're letting go a layer of stuff. Mm-hmm. Actually, and one more story that feels really part of this. My dog that I got on Valentine's Day in 2004, I know that she was going to transition since about last summer. And like, it was coming, and she was really giving me a lot of time and space for it. And a couple weeks before, I just tuned in and said, what do I really need to know in order to let you go? And what I understood was this had to be a choice on my part to let her go. If she just fell asleep and didn't wake up, that would be, I'll just use the words, too easy, because then that would allow me to just kind of hang out in this level. But by making that conscious choice to let her go, I would not forget that, right? I would not go to sleep like you described perfectly earlier on. that conscious choice, which hurt like hell, allowed me to almost take on that next evolution or revolution into consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so again, that's a beautiful story that ties back to how our horses show up. I mean, I work through horses, but horses and animals are all the same when you tune into the consciousness of them, right? And so my dog really helped me choose another awakening into greater consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They will do that. They're powerful teachers. They're powerful teachers. Well, we're going to give you a little bit of what we do, a little taste of how we work together. I am going to challenge my technical savvy here. So let's see what we can do. Jess knows this is like the big thing for me. It's never pretty.
So I'll give a little bit of a background as you're trying to get it up, if that would help.
That would help.
All right. I have a herd of currently 15 Morgan horses that are my guides, and that are a very familial herd, meaning many of them are related. And what Sally does just amazes me, because I've raised many of these horses, and so I know the ins and outs of who they are, and I can sense and feel the wisdom that they hold and offer to the people that come to our space. But to have Sally share their chart actually gives me a greater clarity on what I've tuned into, and be a whole nother aspect to potentially who they are. And so this, what we kind of come together in a creation and combination of, is just still fascinates me, just like all of this work, right? The more you learn, the more there is to learn.
Yeah. So typically, in this case, like, okay, so in this case, it could be in any situation. It could be like, okay, so Jess is the owner of this horse, and the intention of this horse could be she wants to know more about her partnership with this horse, or what would this horse's talent be, you know, or how can this horse, you know, tell me more about this horse, or maybe this horse is having a problem. I'm not getting this horse. This would be where I would come from. From her standpoint, we've already talked kind of how she works with the horses from a healing standpoint. I might be looking at the horse to see, okay, is the horse going to be a good breeder? Is it going to throw nice babies? Is it going to be athletic? What's the temperament of the horse? Is the horse going to have potential health issues? And if so, what kind of health issues? What kind of, like, maybe what's the right time to start this horse? What are the talents that this horse could have, right? So I kind of break it down into more of a characteristic type following. She's teaching me, or I'm learning to pick up a little bit more on her intuitive side and how she works. So we kind of blend nicely together that way. I'm more the nuts and the bolts of it. But in another case, there might be, say, if someone wanted to come to us for an astro equine intuitive reading, there would be a third party. We would blend both of those together, and we would either use one of her horses, one of my horses, and we could do some type of, and then we would compare that person's chart with, say, this horse's chart to see what that horse has to tell, right? Has to tell. how they would, you know, or another horse they might have a relationship with, and or to see if this would be a good partnership with that horse, or if they have a horse that they currently have and they're having a problem, we would add that into it a piece too. Did I explain that correctly, you think?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I guess people an example quickly is that we did a webinar and we had a lady who is one of my clients. She had a dream that had one of my horses in it. So we used that horse's chart and this lady's chart, and Sally, who is actually very intuitive herself without my help whatsoever. She just doesn't always know that. But we brought to light a lot of information that through the combination or communion of both charts really helped this lady integrate a few pieces that she was struggling with in her life at that time.
Right. So if we could maybe set an intention before we do this, this particular this summit is about finding ease, flow, and abundance in a rapidly changing world. So I don't know if you can pick up on something that for the viewers that, you know, we could, you know, I don't know, maybe something will come to you, but I can talk to you about this horse. That I can do.
Okay. Just quickly tuning into your viewers and who is part of this gathering and all who watch it. I was getting a hit in my heart, and then this image of just this really wide, expansive, I'll call it a playing field, even though it's really that. It was just this, a horizon maybe is better. And that often we can't see the small things that are on the horizon that are waiting for us as pieces of, like gemstones that we can take and they help guide us, as much as there is boulders that we maybe have to need to go around. But there's this new kind of horizon that we're able to see right now, and see maybe not so much, but feel more. And so really just tune into the feeling of what hits you with this whole entire year, and just notice without judgment where maybe that's guiding you.
Okay. Having said that, the name is good for this chart. So anybody that knows anything about astrology knows that this is a very rare chart. It's a very karmic chart, I believe. So this mare was born on May 19th, 2014 at 8:13 a.m. Butte's Karma Spirit. And when I read a chart, for a horse, I primarily focus on the sun sign, primarily. Because, you know, although I believe they have souls, I believe that they, you know, have emotions and things like that. We, as horse people, we really try not to put personalities on horses, because, you know, they have, in my mind, they have their own spirit. It's not a personal, it's not a person, it's not a human thing. Although they can relate to us and we can relate to them, it's not a human thing. But there are some definite draws, similarities between sun signs, for sure. And I would say that this horse is a Taurus horse. Gonna be a little stubborn. 12th house, gonna be intuitive, gonna be a little mystic, gonna take work seriously, pretty simple in the fact of the type of work that it wants to do, likes to kind of keep it simple in that regard, and is a pretty dependable horse. Dependable, like just going to be there for you type horse. Easy keeper. Having said all of that, her, you know, the sun sign, you know, that's the personality. That's the if you were going to put a personality on it, that's the showing up to be. 12th house is going to be that mystical kind of side, you know, to who showed up to be. Relationships going to be very, very important there. I would think going to be really good with people. But if you see this big red square here,
mm-hmm.
That's called a Cardinal Grand Cross. And they're very rare. And what that means is these are the cardinal signs. Okay, Aries, Capricorn. What happened? Go back. Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer. Each one is in a different element, and they're all cardinal signs. They're all the initiators. Okay? So this horse wants to do something pioneering. Wants to do, and can often be conflicted. You know, this horse can transform things, and came here to transform things, and came here to, you know, be. This is, you know, people. If it was a person, you would say this is a very rare, intense person. And it's like, you know, if it was a person, you would say, like, I haven't had a chart. I haven't had a, well, I say I haven't. My horse, BJ, she has a mutable Grand Cross. And that's the only other horse that I've read that has a Grand Cross.
Wow.
She has a mutable Grand Cross. And she's a handful.
And so help me understand quickly, because I'm not an astrologist, what cardinal is again?
Okay, cardinal. Okay, cardinal, there's cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Those are modes. Cardinals are the first ones to be there. There are four signs. Cardinal is going to be Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer. Okay, those, you know, one in each element. Okay, those are the ones that are going to be there first. They're going to be the ones that are going to initiate everything in those elements. Okay. Okay. Then there's fixed signs. Okay, the fixed signs are going to be in fire are going to be Leo, Taurus. I should have started it a different way. Yeah, actually, the fixed signs are going to be Taurus. Actually, since I started up here, let me go here. Since I started there, I'm losing my mind here. Okay, Taurus is going to be a fixed sign. Then we're going to have Leo, which is going to be a fixed sign. You're going to have Virgo, which is going to be, I'm sorry, that's a mutable sign. I'm losing my mind here. Scorpio, which is going to be a fixed sign. How many other ones do I do? Do I do an air? Oh, and Aquarius. Okay, those are your fixed signs. And then Gemini, Pisces, and Sag and Virgo. I think I got that right. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm kind of I kind of went all over I kind of went all over there. But those are the mutables. So the cardinal are the initiators. The fixed are the ones that stay planted. Okay, and then the mutables go with the flow. Okay, cardinals are the ones that are going to initiate everything. They're the ones that are going to be the first one to get there. And they're very intense. You know, they just, you know, have you ever known an Aries?
Have I?
Yeah.
In a horse?
No.
Or human?
No, a person. A person.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, what about a Capricorn?
What's Capricorn? Oh, yes. I think my daughter's a Capricorn, my second daughter.
Yeah. Very serious. Very serious.
Yes.
Yeah. Libra. Very intent on what they want, where they're going to get, what they want. They're going to very intent on relationship, very intense. You know, they're going to get their relationship, you know, and Cancers very intent on home and what they want there too. You know, so being right.
Yes.
Very intent about what they want. They're going to be the first ones, the ones that are going to be the first ones there. They're not going to give up. That's it. They're going to be the first one there. Fixed ones are going to stay stubborn. Mutable ones are going to be like, okay, well, I don't know. They're going to be a little bit more, okay, well, I can give a little bit. I can go, right? Okay. So this is a cardinal grand square. So this is very intense. Okay. So it's also very powerful. It's very powerful energy. So the big challenge here would be, if we were talking about a person, would be, you know, for all of these elements to work together. I mean, like, obviously, you know, like Cancer, you know, like all these elements, these cardinal elements are going to be like, okay, so I want a relationship. Okay, well, it's got to be a serious relationship. Okay, well, I'm going to argue about this serious relationship. Well, this serious relationship better work at better be a hard worker in my home. You know, if you're talking about a person, I don't know how this works out with a horse, but it still is the 4 square foundation. So there's a lot of strength there. You know, this is the way I interpret it.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of strength there. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like playing dueling banjos. Jumping over to the next person. You know, don't jump into the next element. You have anything?
Yes, but I feel like, well, I guess I'll just share what kind of came to me looking at this square, and what I know about Karma is that she is her. I didn't really understand what Karma was when I named her. I kind of knew like it was the quote unquote bad energy that we try and shift in our life. What I understand about it now is that it's not bad or good. It's just our lessons. And so I knew when Karma was born and how she was born that she was not only bringing the past, very much like you said, mystic. She's able to, and not only myself, but anybody that meets her or tunes into her, that she's a bridge for the past into the present to be able to know and understand those aspects of ourselves, and for her own family she showed up as someone who was, you know, that they talk about once every 7 generations, I believe is what it is. There's someone who shows up to be the catalyst for the entire lineage. That's karma.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I don't know, she has a very unique story of how she came into this world that I don't know if you want to share a little bit more, because it might, I feel like if you share a little bit more first, that will almost be a segue into this story.
Okay, so she has.
Even though I know you don't know the story.
No, I don't. I don't know anything about this horse. This is the first time I've ever seen her or even heard her name. Okay, so we started to kind of talk about her right before this, but you said no. Okay, so she has moon in the 8th house. 8th house is the house of death and birth and rebirth and past lives and inheritance. And, you know, moon is usually your emotional body, but it also is intuitive too. It's the feminine, right? So it's a healing. It's the healer. You know, it's very healing. So that could play into some of this, but she also has. Well, she has her. God, I don't know why that keeps happening. She has North Node in Libra, which would be, that would be karmic. So about relationships, karmic relationships. Libra is about beauty and balance and fairness and peace, making peace. And Libra's all about balance. You know, 5th house is children and love affairs and self-expression. Okay. Okay, but here's the thing that is really very interesting is that she has a yod.
I saw that.
Did you see that she has a yod? I'm so proud of you. Yay!
I know.
Right? We've seen several of your horses now, or several horses with yods. Isn't that funny? Yeah. So yods are fairly rare.
Something else just yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yods are fairly rare. I'm seeing more of them lately. So this is we're a sextile. You have a sextile between 2 planets. In this case, we've got Venus and Uranus conjunct and Mercury. And then a quincunx, which is 2 quincunx right here. These are 150 degrees pointing down to Saturn in the 5th house of Scorpio. Scorpio is intense and passionate, rules life, death, past lives, all of that. Saturn being the teacher, life lessons. And I've said before, you know, it's very hard to interpret yods because really it's not something that another person is going to be able to see in another person when it happens. It's really something that only you know, if it's a person. And, I've kind of figured out that yods are activated. I used to think that they're activated. Okay, so they call it the finger of God or the finger of fate. And I've heard it said that, it's a self-appointed, it's an appointed time. It's not like you work all of your lifetime toward one thing. I've heard that. And then I've heard the opposite, that you do work all your lifetime toward one thing. And then you don't know why you're working toward this, but then all of a sudden the yod is activated. And then all of these gifts become apparent. And now you know why you have been working on this all of your life. Now you know what, and I do believe after seeing all of these yods, especially this past year, I do believe that is probably the case. Like you just have this inner knowing that you've got something that's coming up. I don't think it's necessarily a pleasant thing for for a person with Yod. I think it's kind of like an anxious awaiting, like I'm waiting for something to come up. Well, when is this going to happen already? You know, I think for a person it is. I don't know how a horse feels about it. You want to speak into that? I've got a little bit more. You want me to keep talking, or?
So I guess, first of all, I will share that Surf, who was the chart that we did with one of my clients, the horse that was in her dreams. Surf is Karma's half brother, and he also had a Yod, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Secondly, there's only, in the time that I owned their mom, those were the only two horses that are alive from 2010 is when I got them. And so 4 years that I owned her, which is not uncommon. There's two horses. But what is kind of fascinating is that Karma's mom, Carmelita, had Surf, and then had two babies that she lost. And that's a whole nother aspect of my own personal story and evolution into this work. But when Karma was born, I went down to check on Carmelita, and I could tell that something was wrong. And Karma was, I think, Carmelita's 7th or 8th baby. So, and for anybody who's familiar with horses or not, horses generally 99.9% of the time give birth without any sort of assistance, because that's how they do it. And that point, whatever percent of the time, you're losing one or both if you have complications. I lost Carmelita, who the vet had come out because I knew something was wrong. And he said, we're going to have to do a C-section, but I can't do it here. We have to haul her about 45 minutes to the clinic. Carmelita heard that and prolapsed, so that we had to. We were losing Carmelita at that point because it was like she knew, well, it's one of us. And so, yeah. And this was, I have many pieces in my life that were, let's call them dark nights of the soul. So right away, the vet was like, oh my gosh, all right, well, let's do this because we're losing the mare. So him and I, worked on getting Karma out, and we pulled her out. Oh, he said, she's not breathing. And he looks at me and he says, Jess, I'm really sorry. And I was like, what? This is the only filly. I've been looking for these bloodlines for my entire life. When I came across Morgan's when I was 12 years old, I am not letting this filly die. So I started giving her mouth to mouth. And I think he was like, well, oh my goodness. Okay. So I guess we're trying to save this horse. So Karma eventually took her first breath, and yeah, we lost Carmelita that day. But what I began to notice as Karma, like I had to bottle feed her, and then Karma's mom's sister, who I had brought up from California along with Carmelita in 2010, she had had a foal about a month earlier, and she was there and witnessed and held space for Carmelita to pass. And so a couple days after bottle feeding Karma, I asked her, I said, Annie, I need you, like, you're going to be a better mom than me. Can you, like, are you willing to do this? And it took 2 or 3 feedings, and that was it, like, of my helping and just, holding space for Annie to be able to take on this twin to her own baby. And Carmelita's sister Annie took Karma and then had twins in 2014, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah. And one more thing is that Karma, I don't know if you can really see it in the picture, but she is side swept to the left. So you can see it probably if you pay attention to her left hind leg. It looks kind of just like it's positioned a little bit crooked, but her whole left, especially her hind leg, but her left foreleg, front leg is also to some extent a little bit swept. So it's kind of swept into this curve where she starts, she's just kind of swept to the right and back to the left. And just in her legs, everything else is kind of in alignment, and she's not in pain. And what I understood was that because of this whole, and I'm very familiar with the horses in her lineage, there is a number of them that were born with, let's call them defects, because that's what they would be considered in the horse world. But karma came here to end a cycle of something that wasn't serving these horses, right? Because in order to serve humans, in order to serve, there has to be this mutual respect and honoring of who we are. And so these horses, I believe, are healers. I mean, all animals are, but in their own right, above and beyond. And there's this whole lineage of horses that kind of found me. And so karma's ending this cycle, because you can't really ride a horse who isn't sound, right?
Right. Well, I can tell you that a Cardinal Grand Cross here typically leads to a very long life.
Well, and I don't believe that she is here to do it like this, because and that's, again, these horses, they all came in my own desire to learn why they were here for me and why this was showing up. It was just like every single day I would drop into this space and then something else would come through and then I'd have to move through that. And with karma, I never got that she was in pain and that she was here for a very specific reason. So this finger of God, right? And that she wasn't taking this lightly either. Like, she came here to transform something that is not serving everybody, humans, animals.
So like if a yod was a person, okay, it was on a person, like usually something happens and it turns their life around. So maybe let's just say that was at the moment where Annie took her on. Okay, maybe, right? So there's something that turns their life around. Okay, and then there's a period of restlessness. It seems like, okay, like they don't know what to do with themselves, or like, I don't know what why I'm here. I don't know. I'm just like sitting here waiting for something to happen. For God's sakes, come on, what's going on? Right? And then it's like, and then it's when this gets activated with something, when something transits. Oh, shoot. And I didn't put any transits on here because I never look at transits with horses. I just don't. But when something transits through here, and it can happen multiple times, like it could be a moon or something. She's young, so I mean, she could be Mercury coming through here. Who knows? But when something transits, then this gets activated. The yod gets activated, and then something happens. That's kind of the way I'm kind of seeing it with people. That's the way I'm kind of feeling it. Now, I don't know, there are people that know a lot more than me for sure. And I'm sure that there's astrologers out there going, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. But that's the way I feel it myself. That's the way I'm noticing it come up.
That makes sense. And I mean, what I'm about to share, you can take this 1,000 different ways, but the knowing that I felt from this filly the day she was born, like she stood over and held space for her mom to pass. And then, in the first week, and then when she got adopted by Annie, But then it was like she went into a period of almost being lost. Like I kept feeling, and I even have pictures of her at that age where looking into her soul through her eyes, there's just this sense of being lost, not necessarily of loss. And again, maybe like you can take it 1,000 different ways. Yes, she lost her mom, but it wasn't, I never felt that it was her grieving the loss of her mom. It was just this sense of, I know what my purpose is, but I am lost right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yet now, and I would say probably when she was a yearling, because she spent about 16 months on pasture with her sister, like the fillies that were born at the same age as her. And then when she came home, and I don't know if we just kind of went to work right away, because all of my horses, when they're born, they're just integrated into this healing work. It was like all of a sudden she knew exactly who she was. You know, she knew how to do the work already, but okay, now.
Mm-hmm. Is she possessive of you? Or a little controlling of your time?
Well, do you know what's really interesting? And for the longest time, this just baffled me. But I would, because I feel like there's this connection that I can't even explain with her. And so I'm very drawn to her. And so I don't know how she feels about me, but she will always take and use her front legs to kind of paw, not to hurt me, just to, I don't know what, I still don't, again, like I can share all the wisdom in the world, but I still don't know what this means for me. But you saying that was the first thing that came up, was just this thing that she does with her front foot. And it doesn't hurt. It's just like getting my attention. And it feels like you have something that's coming through right now.
I think that's her way of speaking to you. She's really trying to speak to you in some type of way. That's her way of communicating with you. And I don't know why, but see all this water down here?
Mm-hmm.
That would just indicate, I mean, her AC, I mean, she's just got her midheaven point. I mean, she's just got a lot of water. She's got a lot of water, and she's very smart.
Mm-hmm.
She's anxious. She's very, very, very smart. And her moon is in this 8th house. You know, that's the mother spirit. It's in Aquarius. You know, she's eclectic. You know, she's not your typical horse. It's kind of funny that her moon with the mother spirit is in the 8th house of death. You know, so I don't know. I think she's trying to let you know. I think that's her way of communicating. But I don't know what she's trying. I have no idea what she's trying to say to you. I have no idea. Only you can say that. Maybe she wants more personal attention. I think she's probably very possessive, and that I think she's trying to control you. I really do. I think she wants more attention.
Well, and feeling into your words and just recognizing how my body is responding to them, because that's my monitor, I guess, for truth, is what I call it. Is that's her way of communicating with me, in where I might not be paying attention enough to what she is really trying to share at that time, right? And that's because then sometimes it'll make me mad, and I get up, what do you want, Karma? And then, and then she looks at me like, well, just like, whoa, easy, just, but, and so there's
pay attention to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's not, I think I'm okay. I think what she wants is her alone time with you.
That would make sense.
And probably, you know, in the capacity that if she is here to do this work with you, then and you know, she was born with this Neptune in Pisces too, and Chiron in Pisces. So she's got that whole spiritual dreaming, you know, she was born during this time. So she could, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, if you can give her the chance to be who she was supposed to be, what she's supposed to be here for. She might actually be, I mean, you gave her life.
Yeah.
So that's just a little taste of what Jess and I do. I hope that you got something for that. Jess, are you getting anything that that Karma might have to say to our viewers about living a life of ease and balance and abundance, and or letting go of fear and chaos? Maybe that's a better thing.
I felt her show up kind of really early on in this interview, and right now I'm just kind of like asking or holding the space for what you just kind of asked and seeing if there's anything that's coming. And the words I just got was actually what you just shared. And it's like, she's just showing me her face and looking forward, like face head on, pay attention. And, you know, even for myself, and I guess even for you, right? And pay attention, not in a fearful way, but just pay attention, because it's like the universe is always offering you an invitation to a different perspective, to a different way, to a different gift, or for us to see from a different perspective outside of who we normally are. And so one more thing actually that I feel related to that, I don't read astrology charts, but in this work with Sally, I've found that I can just look at a chart and tune into something that is hitting me in a way that is a completely different perspective from how I work, and not really related to astrology, but maybe it's just that intuitive piece that there's this box and karma's here to totally bust open and work outside of that box to create a new foundation for something. And that deep breath to me signals that is a truth that's being shared. So I guess if that's the wisdom as how it came through from karma. And it's almost like I'm getting that acknowledgement from her, like a softening, a settling of that, and a grounding that.
Yeah. There you go. So Jess, share the free gifts that you're giving our viewers.
It's a pre-recorded 4 directions horse wisdom guided meditation. So there's 5 horses in my herd. A mom and daughter are one of the directions, and I sat with them and recorded this in actually facing a direction, and just with the wisdom that they wanted to share about expanding our perspective, kind of based on the shamanic journey, wheel of life, circle of life. And so you can get that by signing up. I believe, Sally, you'll have that link underneath. And even for myself, I've listened to them time and time again, and it's just, I just get to become the channel for all of this amazing wisdom that comes through. So I recognize that I am doing something, but at the same time, it just floors me what comes through sometimes, and that I can offer it out to everybody else and use use this as a tool to bring more horse wisdom for healing and inspired living. Because I know with that, when we had just met each other, I said something like, on the other side of healing is inspiration. And you were like, whoa, what did you just say? And I said, I don't know. It was just something that came to me. But it's true, right? What inspires us is that pathway that heals us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, Jesse and I are going to be doing a webinar coming up, whether you love horses, whether you want a healing, whether you want to know more about astrology, whether you have a horse, you don't have a horse, you're thinking about a horse, you know, you just, whatever. If this has any interest to you, keep your eye peeled for that, because that's coming up shortly. And I encourage you to go and like her Facebook for sure. Visit her website. Is it Horse Wisdom Wednesdays?
Yes.
So much fun, and really you'll get a lot out of it. That's on her Facebook. So Guided by Equus. And thanks, Jess, so much. I love you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Sally.
Beautiful.
And this work together.
Thanks.